Welcome, welcome, welcome to day 2 of the world premiere of Encuentro. Yes, you can applaud, yes. Thank you. So today we're featuring a very special cocktail. It's a red jalapeno jelly champagne cocktail that was especially formulated by Chef Adan Medrano. And so we invite you to enjoy. It's there's plenty of coffee, so you don't need to drink a lot of champagne. It's just a celebration. So we'll be going into the theater in a few minutes so that we can get breakfast started immediately. We hope you're hungry. And I would like to introduce Adan Medrano, who's going to kick off our program.
Thank you. Good morning, early risers. I've been drinking this, so if I'm a bit slurred, I created this when Southwest Airlines opened their market in Atlanta, and they wanted something with peaches, but they wanted to be Latino. So this is the red jalapeno champagne cocktail that has peach juice in it, pero has champagne, of course. Let's start by just, if you have some, I'll propose a toast. I thought last night, Mario Montaño, Dr. Mario Montaño, on his way over, he said, he's an anthropologist who has researched this food, and he said, last night was historic. He said, the first time that our chefs, our people, talk about our food on our terms with the stories of our families and our ancestors. It's the first time they've come together to talk about it. So I would like to toast to all of the chefs, to the journalists, to the writers who are here, and to the media for coming together in Encuentro to do this because it is the first time and it's born out of joy and celebration. So salud. Salud. Thank you. We're going to start the program right soon.
Yeah, in a few minutes, yes. I did notice, too, that you probably have noticed our step and repeat here today. This recognizes all of our sponsors. Again, you couldn't be here, we couldn't be here without our sponsors. And one of those key sponsors is here this morning, again. So I'm going to ask Lisa if she wants to come up and please say a few words with HEB.
Thanks, Chris. It's hard to follow Adan and the passion that he has for this journey that he's been on. And like I said last night, we are just so thrilled at HEB to be part of this journey. You could just feel something tangible in the room last night. Coming in and not, we've been in planning meetings and things like that, but seeing the chefs speak, sharing their stories about their childhood, these moments, and recreating it for us, absolutely delicious. We're in for such a treat today. And so amazing that we could bring HEB into the mix. We could bring Mi Tienda. We have our leaders of Mi Tienda here with us today. Juan Alonso and Manny Kalunga, they're here today and celebrating with us. Mi Tienda, as I said last night, is our store where we are catering to first-generation Hispanics and everyone that wants to bring those products and meals and family tables back in from their childhood, just like the chefs did last night. So we hope that we're here for you, and thank you for being here for us to celebrate all of this amazing food. So I look forward to another great day. I don't want to stand in between you and breakfast and our chefs any longer, so I'm going to turn the mic back to Chris. Thank you.
That's it, right? Okay, let's eat. Everybody, if you will just join us in the theater, we'll start the program immediately, introducing the food with the chefs, and then you'll get to eat. Yes.
So to start, we're going to eat right away. So I'm going to go directly to the 3 chefs who are here today to cook for us. Chef Victoria Elizondo is the chef owner of Cochinita and Company here in Houston, where she insists that fresh and preferably local ingredients are key to her vibrant and flavorful Mexican food. At her restaurant in the Greater East End, Cochinita and Company, she usually has several dishes featuring the ancient food that is native to Texas for thousands of years, nopalitos, cactus. Her just-released book, Taco-tastic, explores the complex and hip flavors of the traditional taco. When she was 12, Elizondo left her native Nuevo León, just south of the Rio, south of the Texas-Mexican border, with her mother to move to the United States, where she became a DACA recipient. During her career, she has worked at top Houston restaurants like State of Grace, Pax Americana, and Sochi. In 2016, she started her own business venture, Cochinita and Company, and it is now a restaurant that is receiving high honors. The Houston Chronicle named Cochinita and Company one of the top 25 best restaurants of 2022. This year, Elizondo was nominated for the prestigious National Emerging Chef James Beard Award. Please welcome Chef Victoria Elizondo.
Well, when you say it like that, I was like, what? I did that? First of all, I'm very thankful to be here. I was telling Adan earlier, this is unlike any other event I've done before. For better or worse, a lot of those events are more, to show who you are and who's who and promotion. But this is so meaningful because I'm learning things about my culture that I didn't even know before. Especially as an immigrant, you're so caught up working all day, every day, and you don't have time to dig deep. You just gotta survive. So this is a nice break from that hustle mentality and take everything in and learn and use it as a motivation to go forward with this information. Let me tell you a little bit about the chilaquiles I made today. Chilaquil is a Nahuatl word. Chila, which is chili, which is the chile, excuse me. And then aquili, it means submerged in. So the tortilla chips are submerged in chile. Although chilaquiles is not necessarily an Asian dish, the ingredients, its main components date back to the Mayan and Aztec times, like corn and the chiles secos that I use, which is guajillo, pasilla, and morita. Whew, excuse me, I had a lot of coffee. I forgot to take my beta blockers. Like I was saying, it's not an Asian dish, but it does date back some of the ingredients to those times. After the colonizers and the Spanish conquistadors, from there we got what is now chorizo, which you can find in there as well. Oh, I forgot to tell you, cactus, the nopales, is also an Asian ingredient. But now we have, thanks to the conquistadors, we have chorizo, crema, queso fresco, and cilantro. So it's kind of a combination of both, and in a way, just, it's part of history. It is what it is. That's what happened, and now we have delicious chilaquiles. So there's also the dish also shows some techniques that were used back then to preserve food because there was no refrigeration back then. So we have pickled onions and the chorizo, which of course is cured. And does anybody have any questions about the dish? No? Okay, great. I love that. Yeah, oh, I forgot to tell you the story about the dish, sorry, and why I picked it. So, as Adan mentioned, I'll be quick. My mother and I migrated to this country when I was 12. So, her being a single mother, she had to work 2 to 3 jobs. Chilaquiles is the easiest, quickest, most delicious dish you can make. So, in a way, it represented my life in this country. Just because you're in a hurry doesn't mean you have to eat fast food. Just because you're in a hurry or don't have the financial liberation of splurging yourself with food doesn't mean you have to eat bad. You can be in a budget and eat a delicious food. Chilaquiles is one of those dishes that it doesn't matter what your social class is, it's an amazing dish. So it's quick, it's delicious, and in a way, that's kind of how my life was moving here. I don't have a beautiful story like the chefs from yesterday. I was like mesmerized, but that's the best I could come up with. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That is a beautiful story. Thank you. Chef Diana Barton Smith began her career at the Fort Worth ISD's American Indian Education Program. The purpose of the program was to work with the parents and community to provide an educational support network for American Indian children to help their successful graduation. She then took on the role of executive director of the American Indian Chamber of Commerce of Texas. The Chamber's focus was to grow new and existing First Nations businesses in the state of Texas. In 2012, Diana accepted the position of Tribal Administrator of the Caddo Nation of Oklahoma. She has served on the boards of the American Indian Center and the United Way Diversity Council of Tarrant County. She currently serves on the boards of Texas Native Health, Metro Caddo Culture Club, and the Native American Advisory Board at the University of Texas. She will present her family dish, speak about it, and she will be followed by Chef McKinney, whom I will introduce later. Diana is also a gardener, tending and growing both plants and human souls. Her cooking is grounded in her family and tribal traditions. Please welcome Diana Parton Smith.
Agalisa. Agalisa is my mother's language. I am an enrolled citizen of the Caddo Nation, and I am a daughter of the Yuchi Nation. So Agalisa means morning good, and it was the Yuchi word that I heard my grandmother speak. I'm here as a pitch hitter because my cousin Kay could not be here. And Kay was going to come and present a truly family recipe. But as we told you last night, she's not going to be able to be here. So I came in at the last minute. And I'm really thankful to be here. This is an amazing event, and it just reminds you about how important food is. So when they were asking me to pick a recipe, I was telling them, you know, I'm not a chef. These people are chefs, right? And I'm not even the best cook in my family, okay? I'm the organizer, all right? I'm not the chef. But when we settled on grape dumplings, because it was breakfast, thank you so much for cooking it for me. I realized that grape dumplings represents me. It is a mashup of pre-colonization food and colonization food. That's what grape dumplings is. And I am a mashup of that as well. So I was raised by my Yuchi family in East Texas. So a quick history, most tribal nations have two kinds of lands. They have the ancestral lands that Creator put them on prior to colonization, and they have tribal lands that the United States government put them on after colonization. I grew up on my Caddo ancestral lands, but because I was educated in the state of Texas, it didn't click because the education wasn't focused on the fact that I was standing on Caddo land. But I grew up swimming in the Sabine River, having great adventures in the piney forest of East Texas, and eating the grapes that we picked wild that my mother had to process. That was my childhood, and that's where this recipe comes from, is muscadine grapes, or sometimes they're called possum grapes, sometimes they're called Mustang grapes, but they're basically wild grapes, and they have a tough outer skin, and you have to process them before you eat them. Well, my Yuchi mother did that with the grapes, and in my 30s, I began researching and getting back to my Caddo-ness. And one of the very first recipes that I was taught was grape dumplings. Now, grape dumplings represent a collision of foodways prior to colonization and foodways after colonization. Another history lesson is when they took our land and our mineral rights and our water rights, they made a promise that they would ensure that we had the ability to provide health care for our elders and our children, that we could provide education and that we could control the education of our children, and that they would always make sure that we had food, because prior to colonization, all of our food came from the land that we had lived on for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. In 1849, when the Caddos were removed from Texas and moved up to Anadarko, we didn't understand that land up there. We didn't understand what was growing. We didn't understand exactly how to use that land to feed us. And we weren't moved that far. When you look at other tribes that were moved thousands of miles away, they went from someplace like the piney woods to the desert. They really didn't know how to use that land to feed themselves. So they gave us their version of food to take the place of it. So that meant they gave us white flour, white sugar, powdered milk, and as time came on, canned meat and canned cheese. So the grapes are made from the land, and in a way that we've always processed grapes. You have to boil them down to make them sweet. But the dumplings represent colonization and represent the foodways that came to us through colonization, because we had to learn how to use that flour. And so it's a mashup, a pre and post. And so am I. I am half Caddo. My father is the last generation of full-blood Caddos walking the earth, and my mother is Yuchi. And all southeastern woodland tribes had grape dumplings after colonization because all the women figured out how to make the dumplings. Also, the dumpling recipe is the basis of a staple that we called fry bread. But the fry bread takes the dough to another level of chemistry, because we all now know that cooking is really chemistry, okay? It's really chemistry. So it takes it to another level, and I could never get it to that level consistently, okay? So the dough starts out the same, but my fry bread, it's a hit and miss, okay? If it's going to turn out to be edible, or we're going to use it to feed the animals, or we're just going to throw it in the trash. But the dumplings always came out perfect. So the dumplings represented not just me, but it represents the first Caddo recipe that I was ever taught at Caddo camp in our tribes. It was taught to me by an elder who's guided me my whole life since I started my walk back down to Caddo-ness. And it is the first Caddo recipe that I could consistently reproduce for my family and for my community. So anyway, we hope you guys enjoy it, and thank you so much for making it. And he's really the magic who you're going to hear from now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We want to hear more of that story. This is just the beginning of it. The chef who cooked it, we'll hear from him now. Chef Stephen D. McKinney is the chef owner of Three Little Kitchens. Please stand here. Of Three Little Kitchens, a Houston-based company that specializes in what Chef McKinney calls Texas traditional cuisines. And that includes Southern contemporary, New Age soul, Nouveau Creole, and fresh surf and turf. Born and raised in San Antonio, Texas, Chef McKinney says that being an executive chef has always been his passion. He is convinced that when you are passionate about and love what you do, it is not work. He has traveled all over the world to hone his craft and to meet many interesting people and food lovers alike. He gets the most enjoyment, he says, from the simple thank you after he's served a formal dinner or a catered event. Make welcome Chef Stephen D. McKinney.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. A little nervous. Cooking is a passion. It has nothing to do with financial. So when I was asked to do this dish, it was very challenging. But knowing the history of it, it just all came all together at one time. So I've been catering and doing different type of dishes for over 24 years now. And I'm happy to be here, and I'm ready for you guys to try it. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. This looks wonderful. There will be many questions, Chef. We will have a deep dive after we eat. I want to introduce the third breakfast dish. Chef Rebel Mariposa is a Yanaguana-based, that's the indigenous name of San Antonio. She is two-spirit Tejana with a passion for ancestral healing through food, art, and activism. Her work in the food scene in Texas, including founding the restaurant and community space La Botánica, have received recognition by city and state representatives, as well as the local and national media. La Botánica was the first Texas vegan restaurant to open with a full bar and menu. The atole is coming. Thank you. La Botánica was forced to close during the COVID pandemic, and which hit the whole food industry. The spirit, food, and drinks of La Botánica stay alive through catering, classes, and pop-up events through the Yanaguana region. Please welcome Chef Rebel Mariposa.
Thank you, Amateo. I just want to take a moment of silence to recognize the indigenous peoples of this land, as well as the missing and murdered indigenous women that have gone before us. So if we can just take 30 seconds of silence to honor that. Thank you, Adan, for inviting me here to this Encuentro. Thank you all to the chefs that are here, to the academics, to the brains, as I've been calling you the last couple of days. Y'all are the brains. And I'm just honored and humbled to be here, up here, and to the audience that you were here as well, and coming forward to learn more and taste these delicious foods. So I picked today to make pecan amaranth atole. And I picked it for a few different reasons. One, I was asked to do a breakfast dish, and so I thought about it, and I thought hard about, okay, what can I do for breakfast? Because normally I don't do breakfast. You get called to do lunches and dinners and things like that. And so, and of course, we want to do something meaningful. And when I was young, my father would make atole on cold winter mornings. But his atole in my family's recipe, my father is one of 12, and they grew up migrant farmers all over the state of Texas, as well as in Michigan. And you know, some of his sisters have really great stories of picking pecans and on their knees and in Junction, and then having to run home and try to wash all the dirt off their knees so they can then go to the baile, you know, on Friday night and try to have some fun in between all the work. And so for them, their version of an atole is atole de arroz. It's a rice pudding, is what most people know it as. But for us, it's our atole. So and I picked it as well because, you know, when I think about what colonization has done to our peoples, a lot of it has brought in the patriarchy, and we don't get to see a lot of tenderness from our men and from the boys, and I wanted to pick something that my father made to show that even though to bring back the tenderness from the masculine energy that dominates our culture as we rematriate our worlds, and as we go back to honoring the Mother Earth and the feminine energy. So my dad, because he's one of 12 and he has 8 sisters, he has a lot of feminine energy and a lot of respect for women. So I grew up with that as well. So the second reason I picked it was because amaranth grows like a weed here. It might even be somewhere in Houston. I know it grows wild in the creek that I live by in San Antonio. And it also represents resistance. For when the Spanish first came here, they actually made it illegal to grow amaranth for a little while because they saw how we used it in our religious and spiritual practices. So they made it illegal to grow. But of course, our wise ancestors knew to hide seeds, to bury them, to protect them. And so we still currently have amaranth thanks to culture bearers who knew better and continue to keep our spirituality and our religious practices alive. So that's another reason why I picked amaranto and amaranth. Pecans, because they grow in abundance here as well. And I created it with a piloncillo syrup and a té de canela. And I milked the pecans myself and to make a pecan milk to go with the amaranto. So the idea is that the dish is seductive, but not in a sexual way, in a more of a let's save the planet, let's give our love back to Mother Earth kind of way. So I hope that you enjoy it. Thank you. Provecho.
Thank you very, very much. So let's enjoy the food. If you will open the stage, you'll see we've got the chefs will be at their stations, and all the 3 stations today are back there. And you have a bit of time to have breakfast, and then we'll come back here for the deep dive. Enjoy.